This morning, we will have a panel discussion where we will discuss strategies for reopening our campuses. I would like to share the format of our panel discussion with you. We will have the discussion itself for 30 minutes, 20 minutes of which will be panelists present their thoughts and I ask questions and we interactively just share our thoughts with each other. The remaining 10 minutes will be for you to ask your questions via the chat box. Please keep your questions short. The next 20 minutes is for our breakout sessions. You will be randomly assigned to a group of 4 to 5 fellows and you will be given a guide question and a chance to share your answers to your group mates. We have 10 minutes to wrap up this entire session where we answer mentee questions. We encourage you to use your reaction buttons during the panel discussion to share your thoughts and emotions about the sharing. Can you try those reaction buttons now? You'd see that below the screen to answer the question, how are you feeling this morning? So you're happy, you're joyful, you see different icons there in the reaction button. So could you please say, okay, thank you very much. So we can interact in this way. Regardless of where we are in the panel discussion, please click those reaction buttons just to share with us how you are currently feeling or what your sentiment is regarding the sharing of one or two of our panel members. Thank you. From yesterday's session, Professor Mok of Lingnan University inspired us with this presentation about the university's efforts to create opportunities during the time of pandemic. I remember him saying, be transformed so there can be transformation. Professor Neubauer talked about how the pandemic hastened the adoption of technologies and how human cooperation allows us to make solutions creatively and quickly. Professor Lan then shared her experiences as president of the University of Social Science and Humanities of Vietnam National University. Moving to today's panel discussion, we raise our questions and concerns about when and how we reopen our campuses. May I request Victoria to open our two poll questions for our audience? Please answer those two questions. If you recall yesterday, there were questions about if we are having effective teaching using online learning and some about the readiness of our teachers or if they have already adapted to online teaching and learning. It appears prudent to initiate a community discussion on strategies to reopen our campuses, resume face-to-face operations, and if possible, pandemic-proofing higher education. This panel is a venue to share ideas, concerns, even threats to physically welcoming our academic community back to our campuses. Discussions may revolve around the effectiveness of sharing and learning, training our teachers, and effective assessment of student knowledge, changes in physical facilities, and even possible equipment upgrade. You know, the list goes on. To share their thoughts and experiences with us today are three of our panel members. Dr. Yoonsun Lee is a professor in the Department of Educational Psychology at Seoul Women's University. She holds a PhD in Educational Psychology from the University of Washington, USA, and she worked as director in the Division of Assessment for Washington State's Department of Education. From 2008 to 2018, she has served in various administrative positions at SWU. Specifically, she served as Dean of the Office of Student Affairs, as Director of International Affairs, and as Dean of the Office of General Affairs. Through these serving experiences, she was responsible for global networking and collaboration, support for student affairs, accounting, human resource development, and management of facilities. She is currently Dean of the Office of Budget and Strategic Planning and Director of the Institute for Character Education at SWU. She is also a 2017 to 2018 United Board Fellow. Welcome, Yoonsun.
Thank you. Nice to
Our
meet you
next
all.
panel member is Dr. Anil Joseph Pinto, who has been serving as the Registrar of Christ University, Bangalore, India since 2012. He is also an associate professor in the Department of Performing Arts, Theater Studies, and Music. He has his master's in English literature and PhD on self-translation. He was the coordinator of Center for Publications of the university from 2011 to 2019, which publishes 6 peer-reviewed journals and books in English and Canada. He has published articles and translations in English, Kannada, and Konkani. He was a United Board Fellow from 2014 to 2016, and his fellowship placements at Baylor University, Texas, USA in 2014, and the Chinese University of Hong Kong in 2015. His interests include history and philosophy of higher education and higher education leadership. Welcome, Anil.
Thank you, Yami. Morning to you.
Our last but certainly not least panel member is Dr. Iwan Setyawan, a lecturer at the Faculty of Electronic and Computer Engineering, Satya Wacana Christian University in Salatiga, Indonesia. He has been with the university since 2005. Dr. Setyawan is the former Dean of the Faculty of Electronic and Computer Engineering, an appointment he served from 2012 to 2017. Since November 2017, he has been serving as the Deputy Rector for Academic Affairs at Satya Wacana. In addition to his research interest in the electronic engineering field, Dr. Setyawan is also interested in the development of a holistic whole person education curriculum, particularly after his experiences as a visiting scholar during his participation in the United Board Fellows Program 2014 to 2016 cohort. He firmly believes that whole person education is the correct instrument with which to prepare students to contribute to the society and is actively participating in shaping the curriculum at Satya Wacana towards this goal. Welcome, Dr. Iwan.
Thank you, Yami. Good morning, everybody.
Let me stop sharing my slide now. Okay. So I would like to start by asking Yoonsun to share the South Korean experience, to be followed by Anil and then Iwan. We will then have a free-flowing discussion afterwards. We will discuss the results of the polls after the three of them have already shared their insights. Yoonsun?
Thank you, Yami, and hi, everyone. My name is Yoonsun Lee from Seoul Women's University in South Korea. I'm a 2017 and 18 UV Fellow. So today, I'd like to share what we have gone through in the last 17 months in Korea and what we plan to reopen our campus in the near future. So I made a few slides for my presentation, so I'll share that first. Okay. Okay, can you see the slide? Okay. Okay, here is a brief the categories I like to share today. And there are 4 areas. The first one is teaching and learning and teaching environment and evaluation and campus use. I think maybe I will mainly focus on the first 2 areas because I think this is more special experience in South Korea. So I'll focus on the first 2. In the last 17 months, I mean, we start the spring 2020 last year, and most of the classes were done online. And to reopen the campus, I think we have to plan to increase the hybrid classes. And the teaching environment was also very difficult last year. So I like to share the very short statistics. This is how we done in the last year. About 90% of the classes were done online in spring 2020, and only 10% of the classes were face-to-face classes. Because of this, and we had a really difficult time because students complained about the quality control issue. And because of this is online class, a lot of students request for the tuition refund. And then this was very serious problem last year in South Korea, and a lot of universities seriously thought about whether or not they need to refund a part of the tuition. So the first semester was the mainly online classes, and then because of the financial threat with the tuition refund, we increased the number of face-to-face classes in fall 2020. So as you see, about 29% of the classes are face-to-face, and only 22% of the classes were with offline. Oh, sorry, this is online class. And then hybrid classes were about 50%. So a lot of professors, also the administration kind of a team, encouraged the professors to increase the number of face-to-face classes as well as hybrid classes. And still we had a problem with the tuition refund issue in fall 2020. But since students also kind of confirmed that there were more face-to-face class and then hybrid classes, that request to decreased a little bit in the second semester. As we finished 2020, what we what we had to decide is whether or not we kind of move more classes to face-to-face classes, or we change kind of teaching learning environment so that more students are satisfied with their classes. So what we started in fall 2020, we decided classroom remodeling for face-to-face with online classes. I think maybe this will be our next step in the second week of this year, also next year. So what I mean by remodeling classes is some students like to come back to campus for classes, but many students still are afraid of health and safety issue, and then they don't want to come back to campus. So for students who want to stay at home and study from home, so we remodeled the classroom online and face-to-face class simultaneously. So this is the kind of picture. This is what we just finished it. I tried to change the old Korean language to English, but left side is not really there are still Korean language. So what we have here is, this is a camera, and then this is the camera monitoring. So the professor is doing the lecture here, and then she or he can see the monitor how he is doing. And then there are students, so screen on the right side of the wall, and then there are students from home. So if a student don't want to come back to campus because of the safety issue, they can still connect from home to participate in class. So there will be some student in this classroom sitting here and then learning about their the major academic measures. And then there are students staying at home, and then through Zoom program, they still participate in the classes. So we'll allow students, staying at home, and then they can just do their learning anywhere, any place. But still, this is at the same time, they have to connect through the program so that they can at least keep the class time. So this is what we just finished. There are still a lot of classrooms we need to work on, but still we believe some classes we can provide this environment for students so that they can still study at home. So this is the teaching environment some change we are planning. And then there are also evaluation issues. We changed it last year, norm reference test to criterion reference test. So in Korea, a lot of universities, they have certain percentage of A and B and C and D. We cannot give A's to students we like to give. So there is just some kind of limit on that. So because of the online classes, the student also complained about this evaluation system. So temporarily, we changed the norm reference test to criterion reference test. So if professors believe they met a certain criteria on their classes, then they can give A. So if if professors believe all students in this class deserve A, and then 100% of students can get A at this point. But I think maybe this will be pretty soon, this will be finished because we have some, the kind of Korean Ministry of Education, they have some requests, not, there are certain percent of the grade levels. So we'll move back to non-reference to test pretty soon, but still after COVID-19, we are not really sure whether or not we can keep our traditional evaluation system. We think maybe it's more kind of a academic kind of success with all tests, but we are changing that to more progress and product evaluation kind of holistically. So that is our plan for next year. And then the last one is campus use. Because the students don't come to the campus, it's all empty. And then financially, a lot of universities have a difficult time in Korea because the low birth rate, and then not many students will enter the universities pretty soon. So because of the financial issues, the universities are thinking about how they can use their campus for more financial support. So we started last semester the campus sharing plan. So what that is there are several companies in Korea, and then they visit the universities whether or not they can use that campus for community. So the companies pay the money to the universities, and then they rent the campus for short time. So during the kind of vacation season, they can make a movie, or they can do some national exams on the campus. So that is kind of another change we can observe a lot these days in South Korea. So since I have only kind of 5 and 7 minutes talk, and then there will be a lot of issues we can discuss in each areas, but this is just a brief kind of something I like to share with you, and then this is the kind of changes we are making at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Yoonsun. You really got our attention with the future classroom that you showed us. So I think there may be questions about that later. Thank you for your sharing about the South Korean experience. We move on to Anil. The floor is yours, Anil.
Thank you, Yami. It certainly is a pleasure to be part of this panel and share the experiences from Christ University. Just a little quick background. Of course, Christ University is in India, in Bangalore. India is the second most populous country in the world after China, with 1.3 billion and counting. And has about 740 languages, at least 4 major races, and that's all constitutes India. Why I say this is that Christ University has more than 26,500 students in the undergrad, masters, and PhD programs of the university, and they come from the entire part of the country. We have 28 states and 8 union territories, and they come from all the 28 states and union territories, and about 52 different countries. We have about 600 students from abroad. So that's the complex situation that come. And of course, the country is not the same. We have a huge desert. We have a range of hilly regions in Northeast. We have islands. We have mountainous regions, and we have plains. So the students come from all these places. So you can understand the geographically, we are the 7th largest country. So all that complexity comes back to the classroom as a challenge for an administrator, because this throws up all its possible challenges. We had closed the university in 2020 March 15 to be precise, for the exam. We were just begun the examinations end semester, and then we had to close down the university. And then we thought things will end. They didn't end. So finally, we did the examinations online and began the following semester online. One of the strengths of Christ University is the amount of time, resources, and energy we spend on training the teachers throughout the year, pandemic or not. This is one thing that happens in Christ University all the time. And we went back to it. And before we began the classes last year online, we had a 1 month long course for all the teachers. We have about 900 plus teachers. We ran a online course, a course on online learning. Of course, initially our faculty got trained from University of Washington Amherst, and then they taught the 16 faculty. Then they taught the entire university through a course on what is online teaching and learning and evaluation. And I think that did a great preparedness for the teachers to get ready for the online classes. And then the online classes began. And of course, our teachers also come from at least about, I think, 21 of these 28 states. So they all went back to their places. So they all had to teach from there and not from the city of Bangalore or from the state of Karnataka where Bangalore is located. And then, of course, we were hoping, and when the COVID curve came down in the country in December, January, February, we said, okay, let's now start physical class. Now, what is the reason why we wanted to open the classes? One is that unlike the second years and senior students, the first year students had not seen the campus at all. The first year undergrad and master students had not seen the campus. Now, that's a little worrying for us for two reasons. One, of course, is that the strength of Christ University is the campus experience of the students. University has over the period of years, has designed the campus experience for students in terms of the spaces, in terms of the student activities. You know, we try and deliberately and consciously mix this 25,000 students. We deliberately mix them through a lot of competitions and events and programs. And we deliberately also have done our building in such a way that we deliberately put the science and social science and commerce courses together in the same building deliberately, so that students meet and talk. So that's the larger way in the campus is imagined and designed. So, and we wanted them to, have this experience. The second reason is that Christ University does not advertise. I mean, we as a policy, last 25 years, we have never advertised. And as a result, the challenge is that you will not get your next crop of students if this crop of student has not experienced the campus, because it's through the word of mouth that the students learn about the campus. So that was a second challenge. Would we get admission? Of course, we get about 77,000 applications for about 8,000 positions that we offer to the students. But the point is that word of mouth plays a very strong role, where they tell their juniors, look, this institution is good, go and study there, and things like that. So that was a big challenge why we were craving to open the campus. And so then what do we do? First, of course, we had to call the teachers back to Bangalore from this 2021 states that they are in, and call them 15 days in advance, so that, their quarantine period or whatever gets over and they also feel confident. And of course, teachers also get used to working from home, so getting them to come to campus. So we called the teachers back at least 15 days in advance to back. Of course, we gave a 2-month notice, 1 to 2 months notice before that. Then 15 days before that, they had asked to come. And once they came to Bangalore, we had another challenge, which is that now we cannot make it compulsory, and we didn't want to make it compulsory. So students would choose to come. So which means that teacher will have some students in the classroom and some students coming from home or whichever part of the world they are in. And with varying network capacities. So we then went back again and said, how do we do this? And again, we got a team of 16 teachers, got trained from a US university, which has expertise in hybrid teaching and learning, and then got them to teach the entire teacher community once again how to teach hybrid classes, where your students are in the classroom and online. And that was about, I think, about a week's course that we ran, and then the actual hybrid classes began. I myself taught both online and hybrid. Of course, I didn't go through the course, so I cannot say the course was, but my colleagues found the course extremely effective. And of course, now and as we ran for a month, and that required a couple other things to do as well simultaneously. One is to evolve huge protocols for the students, because students are students, and we knew that they will hug, kiss, and all that, because they have been craving for some sort of a companionship and friendship in the classroom. So in the campus, so that was something, and we had to do a lot of orientation for especially teachers. How do you stand? Where do you maintain distance? How do you make them sit in the classroom? We had to do a huge training for security staff, because everybody temperature has to be checked. And we're talking about large numbers, at least 1/3 of the students coming back to the campus out of 25,000. Then all the masks for, safety protocols, entire liquids, gases, everything ready to sanitize wherever there's a COVID in the classroom, how to report, what happens if a class has one COVID reported, and all those things had to be put in place. This had to be reviewed. And each faculty had to be trained, non-teaching staff had to be trained, all the marking on the road, ground, everywhere to be done, lifts, that had to be done. So that was a huge exercise, logistics by itself. And once the classes began, I think initially 1 or 2 weeks, things went well. And then we suddenly had one case popping up in one class. So then suddenly go and identify all the primary contacts, isolate them. And if the teachers don't feel comfortable, okay, you say once again teach from home. So the entire class went online for a week again, then came back again, and then the cases began to again increase. We are not the class where a student and teacher. So those things began to pop up, and finally, by April 2nd week, we said we're just shutting down because the cases are increasing. Of course, as you know, India has the largest number of cases ever in this pandemic season anywhere in the world now. And of course, the entire health infrastructure is broken. So by April and beginning, we realized things are going bad. So we just asked everybody to go home, said, just don't be in campus, and we closed the campus. So we have the experience of not just opening the campus, but also closing it again. And we had set the final examinations beginning from May 5. And now that is also just closed. So I think, again, we are going online for next, probably, I presume, 6 months, or we don't know till when. So that's the experience of Christ University in opening and closing the campus, reopening and closing the campus. Thank you.
Thank you, Anil. It's certainly telling. I mean, in the Philippines, we've never really opened since last year. And so hearing from you the experience of India in closing and opening the campus is really very informative for all of us. I'm sure there's going to be questions later on about it. Thank you. Iwan, we would like to hear from you from Indonesia.
Okay, thank you. I think most of the experiences that has been shared by Yoonsun and Anil.
Ivan, your audio is very weak. Is there a way you can
speak louder?
Is it clear now, or is it still bad?
Yeah, better now.
It's better. It's better.
Okay, then I have to hold the mic. Okay, I was saying that a lot of the experiences that Anil and Yoonsun had shared is also something that we experience here in Indonesia. So I'm not going to repeat those. I would only like to add some small things. Let me share my screen. Okay. In our current situation, most of the classes in Satya Wacana University is conducted online. Although we do have some students come to the campus for some practical courses, particularly in the sciences and health sciences departments, because you really don't want to be treated by a nurse who has only been practicing on a simulator on a computer. So we have to let the students come to campus, but for the most part, we are still online only. But we are planning to reopen the campus. And why? Because like Anil and Yoonsun mentioned, the teaching and learning quality suffered. We feel the lack of interaction between the students and the teachers are hindering some of the teaching and learning process. And also in Indonesia, we in my university, the students come from all over Indonesia, probably similar to the case of Anil, and some of them live in rural areas.
Iwan, I think we have problems with the connection.
Yami, do you want to take a couple of questions?
Yep.
And then we can check in again and see if one
With Iwan.
is back
Okay.
online.
Okay. But I do want to just ask Yoonsun to talk a little bit more about the assessment, because assessment is a big issue among all schools, because there's tendency for students to actually commit cheating offenses. So you mentioned that once you start reopening, you're going to be doing progress rather than the more traditional assessment method. Can you talk more about that?
Okay, thank you for the question, Yami. We also had issues about cheating since most of the classes were done online, and then also assessment were administered online. And we have a platform our university developed, and then we can also see the IP address and how long they kind of lasted in this system or something like that. And also we can mix the if we develop the item with 4 choices, student to see the different order of the 4 choices or something like that. So we tried a lot of things so that students can just focus on their own exam, but still each semester there are about 10 to 15 cases, very brilliant cases, student episode. And then once we find out that issue, and then the student didn't really get the good grade. Mostly they failed. So professors, they also have their own ways to prevent cheatings, but I don't think there is one good answer yet. But the system itself, try to stop their cheating. But for my classes, for example, I try to convince them before we start the exam and how it's not really that important as they think. The grade is not that important in the long run. So I give about 1 minute long lecture about the kind of honesty and those kind of things, and then just to do the exam. But when I kind of evaluate their papers, most of the times I see very good normal distribution. That means, there are good students and also not really performing well student. And then there are students around the average. So I like to believe maybe students are less likely cheat these days.
Okay, thank you, Yoonsun.
So sorry, everybody.
Okay.
Oh, Iwan.
There we go. You have the floor again, Iwan.
That all
Welcome
is
back.
deliberate. It's not an accident. I'm trying to demonstrate our problem here in Indonesia.
Yeah, with connection.
So,
you have
okay,
the floor, Iwan.
Yeah, so I'm sorry. My computer lost connection, so I have to use my phone right now. So I cannot display my presentation. If later I can reconnect, then I will share the presentation. But so where was I? I thought the last thing I mentioned is that for the school year 2021-2022, our government is planning to require us to open the campus, so we have to make some preparations. And as Yoonsun and Anil mentioned, we have some concerns in Indonesia. One additional concern that I would like to share is that of the vaccine distribution. It has not reached everybody in Indonesia, not even the teacher are completely vaccinated, so that's a problem. And we also have some concerns about infrastructure, about SOPs, like Anil said, we have to train our security personnel and also teach our students and our teachers to observe the new health procedures. And our short-term plan is to have a small experiment, a small-scale implementation for the next summer semester to see how prepared we are for reopening the campus, and hopefully we will be more prepared to fully reopen the campus for the next school year. And for the future, we think that blended learning is here to stay. So even if the pandemic is over, we will not be able to, or should not revert back to complete offline only, face-to-face only teaching and learning process. And because one, although there are disadvantages for online teaching and learning, there are advantages. And also by preparing ourselves to do this kind of teaching and learning process, we may prepare ourselves for the next possible similar problem. Hopefully not, but probably there will be another pandemic or those kind of things. And if we are used to doing things blended, both offline, face-to-face, and online, then we will be more prepared. That's all I think from me to add. Yami, thank you. Again, sorry for the problems with connectivity from my end. Thank you.
Thank you, Iwan, and we're glad to have you back. So my next question is for Iwan and for Anil, because in our sharings, we indicated that campus life is really very important for your students. I wonder if there were efforts, for example, to transition student activities online, such as online performances, poetry reading online, and that sort of activities, just so to feed the need of the students along these lines of holistic development.
May I, Yami?
Yeah, sure.
Can I
Yes,
go first?
please.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks. Yes, as I said, one of the strength of Christ University is the transformation of students happens for undergrad in India. Undergrad is 3 years for most programs except for law, which is 5, and for engineering 4 years. Otherwise, mostly 3 years. Generally the feeling is that the online learning is less effective than the physical learning. I beg to differ, because there's sufficient research data to argue that online learning, if done well, can be far more effective than the learning in the classroom in terms of the subject knowledge. But the issue is that all of us know that, as Viveka also put in the comment already, that one of the strength of all the institutions influenced by Christian philosophy or values is the what in Christ University we call holistic education. United Board calls it whole person education. That is our strength, right? That building them the overall personality is the strength, and the values is the strength of all our institutions. That part actually, I think, gets affected almost 70 to 90% when we move online. The rest we are able to do online. So that was a challenge. At Christ University, we tried a lot to try and make up, at least to some extent, like one of the, and not every activity lends itself to that, but we try. So we are known for, one of the things Christ University in India is known for is the ability for our students to win awards in intercollegiate competitions. And we send different teams. We don't send the same team to win in every single competition. We send different teams for different competitions so that different students get exposed to students in other institutions. So what we did is all those mega events which we held online. So try and see if we can, give that space for organize, conceptualize, learn crisis management, social, exchange, trying to accommodate each other's views, all that online. Also tried, one of other strength is, of course, choirs. We have a lot of choirs coming from all faith communities and backgrounds and disciplines. So we tried this time, of course, and that was a great thing. First time and this is where the online also gave newer opportunities which were not available previously. We did multi-country choirs. Indonesia, in fact, was part of the choirs that we organized. So our students from US, India, US, also from different backgrounds. So we did choirs from different national backgrounds, and that was one way they could connect, practice. And remember, anybody who is into music, no, it's not easy. I mean, you can't just go up and practice. You have to send notes, you have to practice, you have to pre-practice, and do a lot of things. So that's something that we try to do. So a lot of these activities we try to push. So I think 30 to 40% we must have managed. I think there's Dr. Jyoti, my colleague. She probably is better to respond to this. But there are various levels of successes because in the class, when they see they can inspire, how do you make inspire each other online? So those are the challenges. But yes, we try to do that part. And of course, one of the things we do also is we have a module called Holistic Education. It's a taught module, 1 credit every semester, for first 4 semesters. That we, of course, didn't compromise. We did teach to whatever success that it had. Yeah, thank you, Yami.
Thank you, Anil. Iwan?
Yes, we also had, excuse me. I was saying that we also had some online competitions. We even joined a robotic competition. So usually our students build robots, and then students from all over the country go to a place and do competition offline. But since currently that is not possible, we do it offline. So we have those kind of things. We also have some choirs. So we also have some virtual choir performances during Christmas, for example. So yes, we give students opportunity to organize events and also to join events, join competitions, and those are done online at the moment.
Thank you very much, Iwan. Through the chat, maybe you have some questions you'd like to ask our panel. Vivika asked a question in the chat box. Do you think that your students are willing to come back or want to come back to campus already?
I mean, who do you want this question to answer?
Anybody from the panel may answer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I will. Let me just, if it's okay, go first. So it depends. So one is that, and this is a typical Asian phenomenon, that students generally are not the decision makers, right? The parents are, and the uncle, aunt, or somebody, elder sister, elder brother is a decision maker. So a lot of them wanted to come back, but the parents didn't allow them to come back. They were more scared because they had, in the other part of Asian phenomenon is also joint families, especially in India, where you live with your, grandparents and, all that. And sometimes also with, fathers, brothers, children, and all that. So that poses much greater problem for them to actually send their children to school, because when they come back, they may bring the infection that could be fatal for the family. So a lot of the time students wanted to come, the parents would not allow. And it also, in terms of the classroom numbers, it varied. For example, in the hotel management, we had almost 98% attendance. In sciences, some of the physics, chemistry, we had 98, 99, 100% attendance. Whereas in the social sciences, humanities, we had about 30%, 40%, 50% attendance. So that also varied across what students thought is extremely important in terms of they learn. Engineering, we had higher percentage. So those places where they thought it's important to come back to campus to learn it well, I think they came back. But other programs, they decided to stay back at home and continue their learning. Some, of course, we had to, like sciences, in the last semester, we opened actually from November. So practicals, you can't, other than mathematics and computer science, you can't do practicals online. For physics, chemistry, engineering, we had to call them back to campus. There we just called them only for campus. And of course, almost 99 to 100% students came back, other than those who were abroad, and did their practicals, and they went back. Of course, then we had to plan their housing in the campus and, all those things have to be done. But yes, so practicals, the students came back and went back, but when we opened for practicals and theory, the numbers varied. Thank you.
Yoonsun or Iwan, would you like to add to that?
Like Anil said, in many cases, the students are not the decision maker, and it's their parents who make the decision. But the students, and also among the parents, there are differing opinions. Some of the parents think that the students should come back because they don't think the students get their money's worth of teaching and learning. Some of the students are eager to come back, some because they need more interaction with the teachers and the other students in order to learn better. Some of them are for more practical stuff, like if they stay at home after class, their parents will tell them to do chores, to clean the house and all those kind of things. If they go back to campus after classes, they can chat with their friends, they can do basically whatever they want. So we have different opinions about that, and that makes it complicated, because if we have to reopen the campus, then we have to accommodate both sides of the both types of students, and it will put pressure on our infrastructure and other things. I think that's from me. Back to you, Yam.
Okay, thank you. We have a question from Dr. Wai Ching. There is a discussion about forgoing the traditional campus learning model, not confining to the classroom, not confining within the 5-day curriculum, but a more holistic assessment of their learning experience inside and outside campus, inside and outside the curriculum. Do you think this is feasible for our Asian context?
Well, I didn't understand the questions. I don't know if Wai Ching wants to explain the question. I don't know.
Maybe Wai Ching?
Hello? Hello?
Yes.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, it's actually a discussions that I read from some American academics that, of course, I mean, the connection issue is not as difficult in the American context than in Asian context, as Iwan has shown us very clearly. But the idea is if we are going the direction of hybrid learning, for example, that means students can learn where they are rather than going into the campus. And it is becoming a more accessible way of doing education. The challenge is, do we need to rethink the whole model of education, whether we should confine learning in the classroom, whether with the assistance of technology or not. So the invitation is to think like larger. Students are learning now on and off campus, and we are also emphasizing on like learning through service, learning in the community, learning through creative projects, like sometimes students are sent for internship or doing social entrepreneurial projects. So there are a lot of learning actually outside of the campus. So how do we see that more holistically? How can we organize it more holistically so that I think Anil is getting there when he mentioned how he planned the student activities online and offline. So are there any room? I know, I mean, all the challenges politically, socially, and also expectations from the parents. But if this is going to happen some way because of the fast growing of technology, are we prepared to imagine a whole different way of doing education so that assessment can be done holistically, not only by examinations, so that we don't have to worry about whether they're cheating or not, but look at the creativity that they can demonstrate in other activities. So it's a whole rethinking of what to do with the campus. I think we all see the interaction between students and teachers and students, and that is something that we do not want to miss. So the idea suggests is there any way to make creative use of the campus rather than looking at the campus as the only learning spots? So that's the whole thinking behind it. Of course, my immediate question was the last one, whether you think this is anything imaginable in the Asian context.
Yami, who do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, maybe a quick reply from Yoonsun because we are already behind time. Thank you, Anil.
There are several pieces Wai Jing mentioned, and then one of that is assessment holistically, and as under this circumstance, and also after COVID-19, can we expand this whole system to a more creative way? I think maybe in the chat box, there are several people mentioning about project-based assessment. And I think maybe that is a really good tool for holistic assessment. And we are learning inside of the classroom and outside of the classroom. And then as we, as a student experience on and off campus, in the project, they work as a small group, and then with a really good collaboration, we have a very good the project-based learning classes, and then the most of the product out of the classes with several projects showing social problem issues, and then in the entire process we can have their insight and also the social problems that they defined, and then the solutions that they proposed. So that is a really good way to assess the student. And also I think that's a good way to see progress and also the final outcome. The campus, the last one Wai Jing mentioned about the campus use, is it more creative way to use our campus? That is a really huge question. I think that's really, I mean, it just really stuck in my mind, and then how it will change. And then, but I see during the COVID-19, although we have less students on campus, and then I see more uses with the community, and even middle school and high school students come to the campus, and we provide the programs so that they can plan for their career. So that is a kind of the one way. And also we work with government, and then it's more kind of collaboration, collaborative partnership. And there are several the schools and also community members to design the campus, how we can kind of use this huge college campus for different uses. So it's still in the process, but I'll look forward to the more creative solutions from other universities.
Thank you very much, Yoonsun, and thanks for that very insightful question, Dr. Wai Jing. So I'd just like to direct your attention to the results of our poll. Number 1, we all agree that online learning is an effective strategy, and our teachers are ready. They have adjusted to online learning. So I think these are just quirks that we need to polish later on. When I was discussing this session with Vivica, I did share to her about the Yellow Brick Road. If you're familiar with the story of Oz, Dorothy had to go to the Emerald City using the yellow brick road. How I would love that all of us have the yellow brick road ready for us just to follow. But unfortunately, I think we are in a situation where we have to create our own yellow brick road. That's a very big challenge for all of us. But of course, it will start with each of us having our own brick. The last slide for this morning from us is, do you have your yellow brick? So thank you very much for your wonderful participation. I know we all have a lot of things to say. We will wait for the transcription of the chat box from Vivica. And again, thank you for our panel members, to Yoonsun, to Anil, and to Iwan. Thank you very much, everybody.